Hey guys, we got the famous Michael Brown in the building today. He's got a story. I don't know much about him anymore, so I'm going to let him tell it to you.
You can go ahead and start?
Yeah, sure.
Alright.
How was your childhood?
My childhood was wonderful. First, I'd like to start off with saying, like, growing up, I always wanted to be, like, a professional athlete. I wasn't really sure which direction I wanted to go. I've boxed here in town for a long time. Had fights all over town. I fought Vienna, a bunch of sides of North End. I fought all around the surrounding counties, some in Ohio, a bunch of different places. But, my addiction stripped me of that. I lost everything because of it. My childhood was wonderful. I'll backtrack a little bit. My childhood was wonderful. I grew up kind of in poverty, though. I grew up in a rough neighborhood around drugs and a bunch of bad influences. Growing up, I looked up to a lot of older guys. They were always like my influencers. I wanted to hang out with them and fit in and be accepted. Around 13 years old, I was introduced to marijuana, and I knew that I wanted to be cool, or I wanted to fit in. So what had happened was I started smoking, and coming from poverty, it was hard for me to like afford this. It was hard for me to keep up with these guys, to stay hanging out with them, because they wanted to, find their next high. I didn't realize at the time being, all they were trying to do was feed their addiction. And what this led to was me wanting to come up with money more and more. So it actually caused me to start selling weed. I started selling weed when I was about 14 years old. And for some reason, I'm pretty good at math, and I'm pretty good at keeping track of things. So I did pretty good at it. I mean, that sounds terrible, but I was pretty good at selling weed. I didn't really mess up much. And this brought people around. People liked me because of it. Obviously, they liked me for the wrong reasons, but they were feeding their addiction, and I was having people hang out with me. And so we were both kind of getting what we wanted at the time being. So I remember going to high school, and I was the first sophomores to go there when there was juniors there. And
You went to PHS?
Yes, I went to PHS. So what happened was I started bringing weed to school, and I would hide it. But I wouldn't go to school with the weed. I did a couple of times, but I'd always hide it on my person somewhere. But usually I would hide it before school, and I brought a lot of weed to the side street next to the high school, and I would sell to like all my classmates and everybody that was interested in it. I mean, that sounds terrible, but
right.
I was just feeding my addiction, and I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be looked at like I was cool, like I was somebody. I think that had a lot to do with like a low self-esteem and irresponsibility. And
You seemed a bit cocky.
In high school?
Yeah.
I was very
I didn't know you in high school. I just knew you from like the mall, hanging out with a bunch of chicks and
Oh, God.
selling weed.
Yeah. Well, with that lifestyle comes a lot of, people who want to fit in with you and stuff like that. So.
Okay, so do you think weed is a gateway drug?
For me, it was. It definitely was. What it caused was it put me in that lifestyle, that dark lifestyle.
Right.
And it brought a lot of people around. See, what happened was actually when I started selling weed in high school, I'm sure this happens with a lot of people who sell drugs. They started bringing people who wanted to buy more drugs, other people wanted to buy weed, and they brought pain pills. They stole their parents' pain pills, and they stole their parents' Adderalls, or whatever pills they had. And sooner or later, I started trading every day for different kinds of pain pills. And I remember one of my friends one time was like, "Hey, we can do these pain pills too. We don't have to, just smoke weed." And I was like, "Well, let's try it." So this is before school was my sophomore year. I started trying them, and it just carried over to my junior year. So it's like every day before school, I'm crushing up 3 or 4 Vicodins and going to school high on hydrocodones, like pain pills, and I thought I was cool, and there's kids that look up to me that see me doing this, and they're like, "Oh man, what's he doing?" So I'm different, I'm starting a new trend, and
a new trend.
Yeah, it sounds terrible, and now I'm trying to start a new trend on a different note. I'm trying to start some recovery trend, and it seems like it's already taken off here in Parkersburg, which is a blessing.
That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, this is. I'm glad you guys invited me. So I started doing pain pills around my sophomore, junior year, and it just got worse. It come from me starting out having fun. Like anyone who lies, or anyone that says addiction's not fun, or using drugs, not addiction, but using drugs isn't fun, or smoking weed isn't fun, or drinking isn't fun. When it starts, it is, or we wouldn't.
The lifestyle's fun.
It starts out fun.
Yeah.
And then
it's like an adrenaline rush, kind of.
Yeah, and before you know it, it changed from being fun to taking over your life. You lose all interest of everything that's important.
Being a necessity instead of a.
Yeah, it becomes a habit instead of a pleasure. So and it's like you don't really even notice when that transition is. So I think I'm going to my senior year, and now it goes from me wanting to do these pain pills as a hobby, or to a social drug just to kind of look cool, to now I'm needing these pain pills. I'm needing to find them. And I remember it was towards my end of my senior year, and we couldn't find them, and I was needing them, and I was like upset. And one of my friends said they could find some Oxycontins, which is just like a Percocet, but it's like
Way better.
3 times stronger.
Right.
Yeah, way better, way smaller, lasts way longer. So what this did was, I was like, all right. And in the meantime, I'm still selling weed this whole time. So a lot of people's like, how can you afford to use drugs? You mean you grew up in poverty? Well, I was selling, lots, a substantial amount of marijuana at a young age, and I had no responsibilities. Granted, I was helping pay bills at, my parents' house, and I was paying some of my friends' parents' bills, and doing what I could. But in reality, I had a bunch of money, and it was going nowhere. So I'm like, yeah, let's try these pain pills. Granted, they were like $40 a piece, and I'm sure they probably still are. I don't know. But they were outrageous. But when you have a bunch of money, it wasn't really an issue.
Right.
So we go over and try them, and when we go to buy them, this guy's like, hey, if you don't want to, snort them, you can always try this. And he introduced me to smoking them. And what that did was it opened up a whole new pathway, even a darker lifestyle. So I started smoking these things. The buzz didn't last as long, but it was a lot faster, and it lasted it was way stronger. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I did some of these, and I got addicted to them instantly. That feeling of needing it and wanting it was gone, and now I'm feeling good. Yeah, I'm feeling good again, and that's around the transitioning time from having fun and enjoying myself to becoming an addict. And then, so I'm using I graduated high school and stuff. I'm using these Oxycontins almost every day.
Are you still at your parents' house?
I am still at my parents' house. I live with my mom, but really I'm staying almost anywhere I could. I would have excuses to go stay somewhere else because it was easier to sell drugs out of my friends' houses.
Than your mom's house?
Yeah, or my buddy's house than it was my mom's, because she's like, what are you doing? Why do you want to leave the house 20 times in a day?
Did she know that you was on drugs back then or no?
She might actually. I think she might have knew I was smoking weed, but she didn't know I was doing like pain pills and stuff at first. Okay. And it took a few years for her to even realize. But she knew I was smoking, and she knew I was living a dark lifestyle. She knew I was partying, and she always told me like, why, the only thing that happens once the sun goes down is trouble. So when the street lights are on, you should be inside.
Right.
And I just kind of rebelled against that. I would make up excuses like, say I'm going to stay with my friend or whatever. And in reality, I was selling drugs all night long or going to parties with grown ups.
Was you drinking too?
Yes.
Yeah.
But drinking was more of a social thing for me. I've never really had an issue with that for my circumstances. That was like my way of getting in a party and then, like showing off what I had, like showing off that I had pain pills and that I had marijuana and, flaunting myself, like you said, being cocky, I guess.
Right.
And I guess one of my underlying issues too is ego. But I work on that daily.
You seem very different now.
Yeah, I grew up a bunch. So, yeah, I grew up a bunch. But I still have a long way to go. I'm not perfect. I'm far from it, and every day is a battle. So what happened was I graduated high school, like I was saying, and I get in college here at WVUP, and I do good my first semester, and then like as I'm going through it, I developed really dependent on Oxycontins, and I finished my first semester, and I don't know for my second. And I couldn't find no pain pills, no oxys, and so my buddy's like, I'm actually sitting at Tim Hortons on Fifth Avenue, right next to the bridge. And I'm sitting in the parking lot and I'm sweating, and it's summertime, and I'm miserable, I'm depressed, I'm puking, I have diarrhea, and I'm like, where did this all come from? Because I thought it was all kind of like just fun and games, and then I realized like once you don't have these things, like
you're dependent on it.
Yeah, no longer is it fun and games. Now you're miserable. So I'm going inside Tim Hortons and using the bathroom and have diarrhea. I think I had diarrhea like 3 or 4 times. I'm not sure to be exact. But I have a car full of my friends. There's like 4 of us in the car, not including myself. Like I had a black Volkswagen and it was packed with people. Anyways, one of my guys who had sold me Oxycontins is like, I don't have no Oxycontins, but I do have some heroin if you'd be interested in it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's a game changer. And at first I'm like, heck no. I'm like, you ain't ever gonna get me to try heroin. You're like, you know who you're talking to? I was like, there's no way I'm gonna do myself like that.
But then you experience withdrawal.
Yeah. I'm going through withdrawal this whole time, and I'm like, I'm gonna find some oxy. Someone's gonna want to sell me some. So I'm sitting there, and we wait like another hour, and I think I puked a couple more times, and it's really getting to me. And finally, I'm like, you know what? Just call that guy up, and let's go see what it looks like. So we call him up, and he's like, yeah, come on over. Anyways, we leave there, and we actually come over to Southside, and we meet up with this fella. And he's like, my buddy goes inside. He's like, hey man, he's like, I don't have the money. My buddy has the money. Like, you gotta let him come inside. And he's like, oh yeah, bring him on in. You're more than welcome to. And so I went inside and I seen him try it, and he's smoking it. And he's like, she has the exact same stuff here. He's like, here, try this. And I took one hit, and literally within like 10, 15 seconds, my whole withdrawals and my whole withdrawal symptoms, the sweats, the shaking, the puking, everything was gone. My stomach settled, and I felt normal. You know, and it's terrible. So I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. This is almost the same stuff. Let me get some. So I bought a little bit of it, and that was the beginning of my end.
That was like how many years ago?
10 years ago.
So that was back in the day before it was like stomped on. So it was like real heroin, huh?
Yeah, this is back in the day. This is when it was bad. I mean, it's just as bad or worse now, obviously. But yeah, this was it was bad. I think it was tar, actually, to be exact.
Yeah.
Which we all know there's like 10 different kinds nowadays. But yeah, so that was the beginning of my end, and I used it for started out smoking it, and it led to a darker situation, and I did it for like a short amount of time, actually, like 90 days or something. And I'm getting towards the end of my semester at college, and I had missed a few days because I was sick a couple times, and chasing drugs. And then like they told me, listen, you missed too much school this semester, like we're gonna put you on financial probation, and like now you got to keep above a 2.5, I think it was GPA, and you can only miss 3 days of school. And if you miss more than that, we're gonna make you lose college or lose your grants. Because like I said earlier, I come from poverty, so I couldn't afford college.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, I won't miss no school. And so I'm getting high, and so I ended up missing 2 days. And I remember I could miss one more day, and I was going to lose my financial aid, and I was going to lose my chance of getting a college degree. And so I called my buddy up one day, and I'm I need to get high, and I have school at, I think it's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon or 4 o'clock. I'm not sure the exact time, but I remember like I had to be there at a specific time. And my friend's like, he's like, only way I can meet you today is if you meet me in 45 minutes. I'm like, look, I got school in 30. I was like, can you make it faster than that? He's like, listen, he's like, I'm on a strict time, blah, blah. If you want it, come meet me. If you don't, basically the hell with you.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, I'll be there. I was like, just try to hurry. He's like, all right. So I'm sitting and like traffic circle McDonald's for a long period of time, and anyone from Parkersburg knows that's where all addicts have to sit to meet somebody, it seems like. So I sit there.
Or Wendy's on 7th Street.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, there's new destinations. They pop
Right.
up all the time. So I'm sitting there for a minute, and long story short, it takes him like an hour. He's late. I'm late. I meet it. I get it. I go get high. I get to school, and I'm late by like 45 minutes. I got like 10 minutes left in class. The professor marked me absent. Long story short, I end up losing my grant for school. I ended up losing my all chance of success. And I always tell myself, like, you know what, it's all right. Like, I'll better get back in there sometime. This is only a minor setback, but really it was huge. Like, I just lost my chance of being successful at the time being.
What was you going to school for, Sam?
To be an electrical engineer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I actually, while I was in high school, I actually went to college for half the day. Like, I was in class at PHS for half the day, and I would go to the college for half the day, take electrical classes. So I already did all my core classes, and then I was just taking like the some English and like some other more core classes and some electives. But long story short, I threw it all away due to my addiction. It was like an ultimatum. It was like school, college, or to get high. And any addict that's put in that situation, they're going to choose getting high over anything. It doesn't matter who it is, what it is. It's just that's where our mentality is, and that's terrible. It's something we'll struggle with for the rest of our life if we're using.
Yep. Even if we're not using it, you have to completely change your whole atmosphere. Yeah. How you deal with pain, how you deal with anything.
Exactly. So. Depression, all that, anxiety. Anything bad that happens in our life, we gotta learn how to deal with that completely different.
It's hard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not easy. It's not easy. I heard someone say one time that getting clean is extremely hard, and then staying clean is just a tad bit easier, and that's because you just don't pick up.
Yeah, you don't never get over it. You just get used to it.
Yeah, exactly. It never goes away.
Yeah.
Okay, so I lost my college degree, and this whole time, like while I'm selling weed and stuff, I actually started a landscaping business downtown here in Parkersburg, and in the historical district. I was doing really good. I was young. I was like 17. I actually, and I was still selling weed. I worked for a flower club. I had like 10 different houses that I worked for. I was doing really good, and I ended up buying a truck and a bunch of tools. And as my addiction grew, though, it's like I started getting rid of these tools. I stopped working as much. And I remember after at the end of when I was 18, at the end of the summer in 2011, a lot of my clients were like, you know what, we don't need you next year. We appreciate everything you did, but we're going to find somebody else with, blah, blah. Like, you did amazing, but you were just late a couple times. And, maybe next year we'll get on it. I'm like, all right. So I knew it was going downhill. I ended up getting rid of a lot of my tools. And by the time the next year came around, I was so lost in my addiction, I didn't even go back down there. It's like every day it got worse. I started just putting myself in negative situations around negative people, and didn't even realize what I was doing. No longer was I focused on making money and being successful. I was more focused on getting high and chasing my addiction. And the sad thing is, like, it wasn't even just like that. It's like I actually like I ended up stopped selling weed, like, which is crazy because that was my main way of making money between that and landscaping. And it's like, when you give up that, like, what else are you going to do?
Right.
So then I decided just to start selling, like, to heroin and like try to hustle that. And I wasn't never like a heroin dealer. I was just like a heroin pusher. Like, I would influence people to buy it so I could feed my addiction. Like, granted, I would still sell weed, but like,
you were flipping it.
yeah, I was selling just minor amounts, you know what I mean, just small amounts. And then I was just pushing other drugs when people was like to feed my addiction. So it got worse and worse, and sooner or later, like, smoking it stopped getting me high. And one day I was in a trap house, like, or I guess you would call it that, or like a drug house, or whatever you want to call it, and everyone's getting high, and a lot of people was like using the IVs and stuff, and like, you should try like this because you're wasting a lot of it. And I'm like, no way. And at first I said no, and a few of my friends did it, and then it influenced me, man. I'm like, you know what, let's just try it. So I tried it, and I got that same rush, like, you know, you do when you first use any drug, you get a rush, and then it's like every time after that, you're chasing that same rush.
Yeah.
Well, there was my rush. I got my rush back, and then I'm like, oh man, like, you're right, like, this is awesome. And so yeah, it went from doing pain pills to now I'm shooting heroin in a matter of a couple years. And it didn't seem like no time that, you know, it went from like, you know, one time a day, getting high once a day, like shooting it, to the same way I was with smoking it. I was using it numerous times a day. And I shot heroin for, I would say, like 2 years, maybe a little longer than that. And it's like, you know, you have good days and bad days. Some days you're able to feed your addiction, other days you aren't. You know, some days you're sick, some days you aren't. And I remember one time, it's like a growing problem. And it's like 2 years later, I'm like 21, and I'm in another drug house. It's like 3 a.m, and everyone's sick, and these older guys show up, and they're like, what's up? Like, oh man, miserable, waiting on my buddy to get a hold of me so we can get it right. And he's like, I have something you might be interested in. I'm like, what's that? He's like, some methamphetamines. And I mean, I've been around, I've been away for like 5.5 years. Now that I come back, it's like that stuff's way worse than it was when I was around, because it's like it's taking over this town, and hopefully we can put a stop to that. You know, it's gonna be slow, but hopefully we can put an end to it, because
it's taking everybody and every type of person.
Yeah, it doesn't discriminate at all, and that's just addiction in general. But it's like that stuff is terrible. So I'm like, it's 3 a.m. He's like, just try it. And I took one hit, and it's like I was like wide awake, wired, and just felt like I could take over the world.
Right.
I felt like Superman, and
it was fun at first, huh?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was. I was awake, I was alert, I was able to go so-called hustle or just run the streets, and wasn't worried about getting sick. I was I was not normal, but I was like drinking like 100 energy drinks at once. You know, so.
You were like, hell yeah, to cloud nine, huh?
Yeah, you know what I mean, instantly. So, you know, I started doing that, and, you know, but really, all it was for me was a filler. Like, I was a down kind of person. I like doing pain pills. I like doing that whole, like, you know, sleeping on myself, which is silly, but that's what I enjoyed, you know. So, like, if I didn't have that, I would use methamphetamines to carry me over until I got more.
It helped me with my withdrawals.
Yeah.
Like when I was in Suboxone and stuff, like, meth would actually help me with my withdrawals. So.
Yeah, it does. It carries you through, and that's what I use it for, is like a carry through, like a carry over. But then I realized, like, it was way worse. Like, I say that to people, like, I don't think so, because heroin kills you. You're right, but meth eats you from the inside out.
Yeah.
You know, it literally destroys you. I used heroin for about 5 years, a little longer than that. But for like 3 or 4 years, I used it, and I was able to like almost function. You know what I mean? I could, you know, hold a conversation. Even though I was drooling, I could still talk to you. I got on meth, and I would stay up for days on end, and talking wasn't in my category. I was slurring my words. I was talking crazy.
Bugging.
Yeah, tweaking. I was just gone, and it was sad. I lost a lot of weight. I was down to like 120 pounds, and I just looked miserable. Like, and I remember looking back now. I was at my mom's house, and she's like, Michael, where are you going? I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go over here and meet somebody. She's like, all right. She said, just be careful. And I'm like, okay. And she reminds me of this now, like, a lot. And she said when I was walking out her front door, I was holding my pants up because my pants were too big on me, and I was holding them to the side. And she said these pants were my normal pants. I wore these all like forever, and they just wouldn't stay on my butt. And she said it was one of the most sickening things she's ever seen. So what this did, it caused me to like be violent, and it caused me to like stay up late, and put me in a bunch of different situations. This I ended up getting in some trouble. I ended up taking someone's life. I don't really want to talk about it. It was terrible, and it was one of my good friends, and his name was Derek. I'm actually I get criticized a lot for it. I'm not supposed to talk about it.
Right.
My parole officer told me not to ever bring it up. But people been bashing me here recently about it, so I'm gonna go ahead and say I pray for your family, man. You know what I mean? It bugs me bad. I wish I could send you flowers. I wish I could, you know what I mean? But I can't, man.
That's a real dude right there.
Yeah, it's bad.
You want to take a break for a minute?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take a break. We'll be back, guys.
All right.